We're going to call the meeting to order. We're here on Thursday, October the 1st at 12 o'clock for the University of Texas at Tyler Innovation Academy Board meeting. At this time, we're going to say our pledges. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The Texas flag. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. All right, so we have several action items that we're going to start with. The first item is the consent agenda. The board members received a copy of the previous minutes for Thursday, August the 6th, 2015. So we ask that you all take an opportunity to review those. Does anyone have any questions regarding the minutes? All right, do we have a motion to accept the minutes for Thursday, August the 6th, 2015?
Make a motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Dr. Boggs to accept the minutes.
I'll second.
We have a second by Dr. Lamb to accept the minutes. Everyone said aye? Oh, I'm sorry. We also do have a quorum. All right. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Okay.
Oh, wait, he was not, he was
In agreement. Okay. All right. Moving forward to action item number 4, budget amendments for 2014-2015. Christian?
We have some budget amendments at the end of July, so we still may have some more at the end of August. But these are moving some money around to cover some costs. So we need to decrease function 15, which is maintenance and operations, by $50,000, and increase function 53, which is data processing, by $40,000, and increase 35 and 13, each by $5,000 to cover costs in those functions. Any questions? Yeah, we can last this budget.
Yeah, we're just going to catch up with people's off.
Any questions? Do we have a motion to accept the budget minutes for 2014-15?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
We have a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The next item on the agenda is Module 100 Financial Operations. Mr. Parkerson and I had a chance to go and visit the Texas Charter School Association and sit down with legal counsel. As you know, that we have been in our situation as a charter school looking at policies, legal policies, and local policies. We've learned at the start of the year that Texas Charter School Association legal consultants have developed legal policies. They've developed a manual. So basically what they've done is they've gone in and they've identified the legal policies and procedures that apply to charter schools. And they separated those out because when you go to TA website, you just see, when you go to finance policies and law, you just see a list of those things, and you question whether they actually apply to the charter school or they just apply to ISD. And so it was very helpful. We purchased the policy manual. And so within the policy manual, basically what that comes with, it comes with the legal policies, and then there's also model policies. Now, in ISDs refer to model policies as their local policies. whereas a charter school, they refer to them as their model policy. So what we were able to do is when we purchased those, it comes with a Word document that you could easily go in and edit. And so we looked at each policy, each module, and went in and made the edits to comply with our model. And so instead of making several copies of this, we do have a copy on hand, 2 copies that we can pass around. So basically we're looking at right now module 100 with Luke 6 Finance. And so as you can see, and you had a copy of this that was sent out with your board documents, we were able to go in and basically just make the edits. The manual was provided. So we made edits to state who actually oversees things and to make sure it reflects and also aligns with the university. That was also another challenge for us because these model policies were created for really just typical charter schools. And so one thing that's very difficult is when we look at these things is trying to make sure there's alignment between our charter and the university. And so what we're asking the board to do is you don't have to accept, we don't have to have a motion for you to accept the legal policy because the legal policy is law. We don't have a choice whether we follow the law or not. We do have a choice of how we implement the model policies. And so we are proposing that on the model policies here that we would like for the board to accept those policies, and we will be looking at model policies 4 and 500 at the next board meeting. And at that point, we'll have all of them. We've gone through them all.
Is there any way we could put like page numbers on it? I don't think they had page numbers. It just made it. Did you see page numbers? I may have overlooked it.
If it's a Word doc, you can add them.
Right.
Yeah,
So we can say
yeah,
that
okay.
didn't doubt, but, another thing, one of the sections we forgot to put our name. It is still bold. It says name of charter school.
Okay,
It's in section 100.08.
on the 100, okay.
108, section 6. It still has name of charter school throughout that section. So
Okay.
it's simple.
Thank you so much.
And so the secretary, is this the secretary of the board that needs, this is my own clarification. It says secretary, that's the board secretary?
Yes, we did, as we were viewing these, we've learned a lot. Because there are things actually that we've learned, Dr. Lamb, that we are doing that are not even in the law. That we thought, because a lot of us come from traditional ISDs and we carried that experience over, and so we implemented things that we found out after even consulting with legal consultants at Texas Charter School Association that don't even apply to us. It's an option. And so one of those things that we did learn when we were reviewing this section was that we have to have a board president and a board secretary. Now we can have additional officers, but those are the 2 required positions that we have to have. And so one thing that we talked to at Cabinet this week was looking at having Dr. Odell serve as the board secretary, since we do currently have a board president.
And then the finance manager, that would be.
Correct.
And then I just made a note. It says a lot of it is under the guise of the executive director, which is you.
Correct. Charter school, what we found out is that when we went in to start making some edits, they refer to the executive director as the superintendent. And so when we went in and made the edits and started putting in the word superintendent, because that's my title. But what we found was that the term executive director was used throughout the legal policy, and so we just decided that to keep that title and note that the superintendent serves as the executive director.
And I think one of the other sections that has you as the chief executive officer, the CEO.
We saw that as well too, but that was something that how it's reflected in the law, and that wasn't a place where they chose for us to change that. So when we got the Word document that you're viewing now, they actually highlighted the areas for us that were areas that we could make a decision on. If it wasn't highlighted,
Superintendent or executive
correct.
director.
if it wasn't highlighted, it was an area that was, it's just basically a replication of the law.
At the top of each of those laws where it actually gives the section where it says like section 100.08, whatever, and it says the board adopts this policy, blah, blah, blah. The last sentence there now reads the superintendent serves as the executive director, or the superintendent serves as
and
the,
all that. Yeah.
we added that so that it's clear that we are calling that the superintendent. So that sentence was added by us to show that when it's referring to the executive director, it's
It's
referring
very clear.
that it is the
how-
superintendent.
Well, I also think in HR, it is, her title is actually executive director in the HR downstairs.
Yeah.
We
But
don't
then
have
but then it asks Ted of
we don't
TA,
have a
it's
classification of superintendent at the university.
Yeah.
So her classification actually is executive director.
So we are very excited to have this. I mean, we learned that the Charter School Association had a team of legal consultants that were sitting down and identifying the laws that applied to charters that may not, that also may apply to both charter and ISDs, but just may apply to charter. We were so excited to learn that and to have this document because this is something we've not had in the past. We've just had basically had a binder that has some laws in it without the model policies in them. So-
There's one other, I guess, question. On the last section, I guess, last page, it talked about, a lot of it is executive director this, executive maintains all of that. And then the board, one of it was approved purchases above $5,000. So is that, my question on that, was that an
That's a school
individual
district
item?
thing. Yeah, it's an individual item.
Okay, so it's not like a collection of items.
But because we align with the university, anything over $5,000, we have to run through. None of us can buy anything at the university for over $5,000.
The other side of that, if we were a regular charter, that would apply, but since because we're a university charter.
Our finances go through them.
In actuality, that yellow highlight she was talking about was actually a much higher amount of what they recommend in a typical charter setting where you're really making those decisions where on that level. Because we're the university and they required the 5,000, we had to, edit it.
Do we still see those? I mean, the board, any purchase over 5,000, will we still have to approve it before it goes to our HR down there?
That's approved downstairs.
Okay.
And usually it's
Then I guess my-
software
why-
license.
Why do we have it in there? We don't need it.
And that's one of those things, Dr. Lamb, is model policy for charter schools.
Right.
And they don't have a model for university charters. And that was the thing we had for last week, how to handle that.
Because and I think also the language in there was like contract purchase with 5,000. That's why I was asking, is it individual items?
And that's with the university too. That's-
There was actually two sections in that section you're talking about. They actually had a big section highlighted and it said, if your charter falls under this, you need to choose section 1. And if it falls under
Yes.
this, you have to choose section 2. So we had to make a choice between this option or this option, and this was the option that best fit with our situation. And so we went with that section, but it still is not because of the university aspect.
And the Texas Charter School Association is very open to our feedback, and they realize that the documents they've created typically do not always align with university charters. And that's something that we're trying to educate them on, as well as we run across things like this and bring to their attention to say, you have this in the model policy, but understand this contradicts university policy. And so how can we make that adjustment so that we're both in compliance?
So if we're not, as a board, going to be looking at items that are 5,000 and less, the policy says that we will have to approve it. So if we're not having to approve it, can we put a language in there instead of saying the board, say the university? I would,
University policy.
or just say that the university, because that's one of the things that if it ever comes out,
Yeah.
what did the board approve you buying?
Right, no, you're right.
That
And the
X-ray machine?
And in the charter for the subsection E, it says you must use the university finance rules. So we probably need to figure out how to, you might ask Donnelly how to.
We should, because that's when it specifically says we.
No, you're
have to
right.
approve.
Yeah, and I'm fine with that. So
Maybe something that says this all purchases, et cetera, go through the normal university approval process.
And we talked about this, Jama.
Via
Yeah.
email back and
Yes.
forth, and I brought him in and I was like, tell me what you want.
Yeah.
None of these apply, but one that we chose, one that was closest to the university, but you're probably right, let's just strike it.
Because we got it, and then you have to bring it all, we have to approve it.
So do we want to make the correction after talking to Donnelly and bring this back to the board for the next board meeting?
Probably just approve the.
Or we can approve the
But it doesn't
revisions?
sound like we have a report. Are we gonna do university? I'm okay if we say.
I think they should ask Donna.
Okay, so just table it
He
and,
used to be a TEA attorney, so
and see what his recommendation is and how we should word it and bring it back. So,
he was the inspector general, so he should know it's bad or not.
That's all I have.
okay, so we're in agreement to basically table module 100 and consult with Donnelly to further discuss.
And I would recommend, this is kind of smart update, but when we're done with this, you share it back with them, that they give us a discount for providing them with the proper language going forward. Seriously, I mean, university charters are growing.
Well, when we learn all the proper language, we'll do that.
Right.
But it's still a learning process for all of us, as you can see.
Teacher pay teacher, put our document up there and pay 99 cents.
There you go.
There you go. At least make $1 on it.
Yeah.
So there's 5 university charters, you make
$5,
There
I'm
you
telling
go.
you. Buy the sodas over there.
Okay. So we're moving to, so basically we're going to table the module 100 financial operations, consult with Donnelly, and then bring it back to the board for approval. But I think that's a great point. As we're looking at these things, we want to make sure what we have in our model policy is what we're actually doing. So module 200 is charter school governance organization. Again, this was just a part of the manual that we got from Texas Charter School Association. I have a copy of that if you'd like to look at that as well.
I made a few notes.
Okay, go ahead. And there's a copy if anybody wants to pass it around.
One of the things is interesting. We're not a 501c3.
They're not.
Okay. And I made a note. Is this good or bad?
It's
That we're
good.
not? It's good. No, we're not. All right. That's what I'm looking at. So it's
So we don't have
no.
to do separate tax returns. We don't have to do.
Is the university?
No, university is a state agency. We have a different classification.
So if someone want to make a donation to.
We are a
Tyler?
nonprofit, but we are not a 501c3. There are multiple nonprofit organizations. We are also not a 501c4 or a super PAC, although we can start one. But no, we're a state agency and we have a different designation. I don't remember the exact number, but I can get it.
But that was, just straight up, it says, and so we don't know certificate or formation of bylaws.
But if we ever had someone want to develop an Innovation Academy Foundation, that would be a 501c3.
And then the mission and vision, history of that, is that something we had adopted as
I think it's out of the charter.
a charter?
It is.
It was interesting, the language of calculus. I look at that. It says the typical designation of being college ready is being ready for calculus or having taken calculus.
Yeah.
Is that from some?
It's from a STEM thing.
Okay.
So the idea is if you're going to be an engineer, and you get here, you have to enroll in algebra, you cannot graduate in 4 years. So that's where that comes from.
So the idea is get them so that they can.
Calc ready or, and I'm less concerned about them having it than I am about them being calc ready.
Okay.
Now they may choose a different major and not do that. That's fine.
And what it reads is we want to make college and career, like STEM college and career ready. And then we define college ready. We don't want to define career ready.
I think that's a moving target.
Okay.
And actually, if we went back and rewrote the charter, we would change that to university ready.
How can we change it in this module?
I don't know. I mean, we might have to do.
Because it
we have
probably
an
needs to
amendment
align
coming
with
up.
the charter.
Yes,
That's
it
the
has to
biggest
align
thing
with
that
the
we're running
That's cool.
into.
That's all. I just-
Yeah.
It's in the charter.
But I do
Yeah.
want to, so in the advertising that's coming out now, it talks about university ready. Because college ready means you have a GED and you can go to any community college. I mean, in reality, that's what college
Our
ready means.
designation being calculus ready indicates that we pretty much are going university.
That's
ready.
exactly right. So let's start using that terminology to say, so people don't get confused about what college ready means.
I mean, we can come back and revisit that.
Yeah,
Well,
and
we
it's
have to.
definitely
Next
something
year
that
we
we are
have to
trying to,
Re-up, so we can change language there.
and we talked about that. But we're educating our students on that as well, to say, what does college ready mean versus university ready, and what are the requirements, and what position does that put you in if you're just college ready or you're university ready. So in fact, Ms. Peterson spent some time on the Palestine campus yesterday visiting with 9th grade students, and they just completed a PBL where they're looking at, what is a GPA? How does a GPA impact me? How does what I do today, and Mr. Weaver played a role in this too, how does what I do today impact me 4 years down the road? And having those conversations with students. And she said they had some great questions and really had some ownership in, man, if this course counts towards my GPA, how do I make sure that I don't put myself in a situation where I'm not ready and I'm not sitting in where I need to be in 4 years? So good conversations coming, and administrators stepping in and supporting our students as they begin to plan to be university ready.
And I actually went and talked to them as well a couple of weeks ago.
Yep.
And, to remind them that things that they do now does matter. It matters. It's
You stressed my kid out.
I know I did. But I think back when I was in high school, but things didn't matter when I was in high school.
As
I mean,
much
it was
as
a
they do
different
now.
world.
All right.
So,
So
I got another one.
go ahead.
I did stress this.
Hey, there's a wrap over there too.
There's
My wife.
section 200.23 stated local committee to evaluate the school's performance. What is the local committee?
Design team.
Design team.
So each campus, now that we are STEM designated, each campus will have a design team made up of parents, teachers, community members, a district administrator, a campus administrator that will sit down and look at and evaluate the overall effectiveness of the campus,
And they
looking
use
at
this-
academics.
TCSA quality framework.
Yes, so that, Jamie, you want to speak to that? That's the framework that now will, when the state moves to the A through F rating, the framework is 10% of your accountability rating. So right now we're on the Met Standard or Improvement Required rating system. Statute's already been written that we will go through an A through F rating. Now TA just has to go in and define statute. Once they do that, then we're looking at a system under the A through F rating where 10% of that is part of the quality framework self-evaluation, the community involvement self-evaluation. So so the design team will actually sit down at the end of the year and they look at several areas, everything from fine arts to ESL implementation and compliance. Yes.
Wellness program.
Wellness program and things like that. We've been doing that. We have to submit it. Yeah.
The rubric is something.
Yes.
Reference.
Right.
Yes. Now, in the past, campuses were able to create their own rubric. Now, Texas Charter School Association has said, we've helped you with this. We've created a rubric. So next year, we will revisit their rubric and compare their rubric to ours. But right now, the law says you get to create your own rubric. And you get to do a self-evaluation on those areas as a committee. And then your basic evaluation is reported through PEAM submission.
Yes, they actually just introduced this concept year before last, and they implemented it literally like 2 months before summer PEAMS was due, and they said, oh, by the way, you have to do this rubric, and they just shoved it out there and said, just put together a committee and do it. And so everybody just did it, and then last year we actually were more prepared because we had already developed the rubric, and they actually did the meetings earlier in the year. It wasn't as rushed of a thing, so they were able to put something together. But originally, I think it came out of one of the legislative actions or something, and it was like, oh, hey, we want to do this, and we want it reported in June. And this was like, just a couple months prior.
But now campuses are going to have definitely a little more ownership in making sure that they do it when they tie it to your accountability rating in the A through F system. No, it's not.
ISD's district-wide group that looks at that. So
Yeah.
I have every school's got a similar different framework based on their.
So we've been doing it. This is a good thing. We're in compliance with that.
So this
It's actually reported by campus and at district, so there's actually 4 reports that are done.
is just wordsmithing. page numbers would be nice on
Okay.
this one as well. And then the TCSA
Mhm.
is only an acronym in the document.
Mhm.
If we could like write that in, Texas Charter School Association.
Okay.
I didn't know what that was until I actually.
I think that might be pretty difficult to go in and do throughout
think you
the
have to do the
entire
first one.
document.
Just do the
The
first one.
first one,
Just the first
okay.
one, yeah.
Is it not? They didn't do it?
I
It
went,
might be in the legal, and then there's
Oh,
or
it's just one of those things.
Okay.
It may have been earlier in the document, but I'm reading this section.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
TCSA
I see it
quality
when I'm
framework,
looking at
and I'm
that.
like, all right, so what is this?
Well, they
Or
very,
it could be in
no, no,
footer too.
no, it's there.
Is it?
The very part, it
Then
says the
my
Texas Charter
apologies.
School Association, TCA.
I would have
Okay.
paused or checked.
Okay.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, so do we have a motion to accept Module 200 Charter School Governance Organization
I moved the
Model Policy?
model 200, module 200.
Yes.
Second.
Okay.
first is Lamb.
Lamb and second by Dr. Dykes. Dr. Lamb, excuse me. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, moving to action item number 7, which is module 300, which looks at general school operations. I have a copy of that as well, a couple copies if you guys want to pass that around. There are 5 modules and we've made it through 1, 2, and 3. And so again, we'll get through 4 and 5 at the next meeting. And the board members did have a chance, hopefully, to review this prior to the meeting today. So any questions are about Module 300, General School Operations?
I have one question.
Okay.
It said board approves all instructional materials.
Yes.
I guess my question is twofold. I mean, what does that entail? Is that like textbook adoption kind of stuff? Is that our technology adoptions, doing things like Odysseyware and things like that? Or does it include?
Well, it's like the thing we did,
technology?
you were at the last meeting when we approved the,
Thanks for pointing.
what was that called? Oh, I thought- what was that? That was the, what do they call it? It was health and
The absence.
wellness. Yeah. Sex
Absence,
ed stuff.
yeah.
And so we had to actually approve that. Now, the initial stuff we did was written in the charter, what we would use. And so
And
that
the
stuff
board
didn't-
approved the
and
charter.
we approved the charter way back in the day. Well, that came before the board.
Okay,
technically.
well,
But
that's
that
true.
was, but we have to meet the charter, so it was in the
Yeah.
charter. To the point, if you remember, we actually had the word Odysseyware in our charter. Okay.
We made that
And that's
addendum.
been amended to
Yeah.
give us more flexibility. So-
But this did come up when Jamie and I were reviewing this. We specifically said, okay, so what does this mean when it says that the board approves the instructional material? Does this mean they have to approve the textbook adoption? Does this mean that they have to approve the actual
Technology?
programs, the materials? That's a great question because it is in the actual model policy. And when we went back and read the policy, it actually,
There's a lot of law about just the inventory of all of our
yes, we talked about
curriculum
that.
and how if you use your instructional materials allotment to purchase particular curriculum, that there's actually rules that you have to follow to if you decide to change it because you've already paid to have this and then to change it, you have to, I think, put in like an amendment or waiver or something because basically you've spent your money on this and now all of a sudden you're saying, I don't want this anymore, I want this. And there's a certain like time frame, so even
Yeah, we
all
talked
that
about that.
is discussed in there. So there's a lot of stuff.
So does that mean we do improve all of what you just said?
I just,
The school districts, they basically approve a slate of like textbook adoption type stuff. I mean, we're not gonna approve worksheets or, individual little things, so.
But like when the big technology stuff, iPads, the
Well, that-
Chromebooks that are coming through.
well, that goes back to when we talk about purchases.
I think it's anything to do with your instructional materials allotment, technically, your curriculum per se. Like, for example, the
So-
textbooks
But
that
you
you
just
just
back
bought.
up, just remember, again, we're university charter under chapter 12, subchapter E, the curriculum is in charge of faculty.
Yeah,
So, there's,
that's probably another one of those policies we need to have him look at to align the university.
Because we actually read the legal because we were
Yes,
questioning
we
what was
did.
in what was in the local as to how to edit it or what needed to be revised.
And
And we
the,
actually pulled back to the legal and it specifically.
did say that. We were hoping that it would say
gave
May.
leeway, But it
And
didn't.
it
But
didn't.
the actual charter law says, a university faculty member must be in charge of the curriculum. I mean, it says it just
That's state law.
had a state law, so.
Yeah.
We gotta make that right.
University charter
Mhm.
says a university faculty member is in charge over.
Separate.
Direct control over the curriculum.
So is that you?
That is me. I'm the president's designee.
That conflicts with
In,
this.
in,
Yeah, it doesn't.
in the wording of what we
Yeah,
read,
it's
it
like
basically
parental
goes through the fact that during an adoption year, in a typical an adoption year, when you have your IMA, the decisions are being made from the way I read it. The decisions are being made at the campus level and the district level of this is what we want. That we're looking at all these different options, and they narrow it down to what they want to use. And then it's taken to the board, and the board says yes. It's not the board is sitting reviewing all 10 options and narrowing it down to the one. We're the ones looking at the 10 options, narrowing it down to the one, and then saying this is what we want and why.
But if
That's the way I read it.
But
the
what
language
is- yeah.
says if the board doesn't like 1 out of the 10 or what, like say you
I
say
just read it
It's
as
gotta
we
go back.
narrow it down.
Needs to be revisited.
This is a place again where they're writing for
Yes.
open enrollment schools. Doesn't align. We need to probably run it by the attorney and come back.
If we could
with this.
possibly just put in there, whenever these policies are incongruent
Okay.
with the law for
It defers to.
university charters, it defers to the law. And,
Just
you know,
one thing, just as I've been on school board since 2015 years, I've been on it. Basically, the school board doesn't want to look at every curriculum. They just say.
Well, there are
this
some
is
school board
adopted
members.
That's true. There are quite a few.
but if we put just something where it supersedes,
Yeah.
because there might be other areas where they don't jive.
Yeah.
We haven't caught.
Okay, so we're going to table, my understanding, we're going to table module 300 and have legal consultant Don Lee look at it and give us some feedback regarding that particular verbiage in comparison to our charter. Okay, great. Great conversations, appreciate it. I think, this is a learning process as we begin, but I'm very pleased to say that we're in the position now that we actually have some policies, and then we also have some model policies to, in the event that we are question regarding our decision and things like that, that we have something that we can actually refer to and give us some also direction on what we have to comply with. It's been very helpful. So I appreciate everybody's work and feedback as we begin to make sure these things align with the university as well. Looking at the next action item is the parent-teacher organization. Over the last couple of years, we've talked about starting a parent-teacher organization on each campus. Several individuals at the table have begun to look at how does a parent-teacher organization operate at the charter level as well as at the university level. And so, we have to look at both arenas, and that's sometimes where they don't oftentimes agree, and we have to begin to then dig a little deeper. So I would like to ask the board permission for us to start a parent-teacher organization on each campus. This will be made up of parents. Bylaws will be created. Those bylaws will be approved by me. Within the bylaws, the campus director will serve on the parent-teacher organization as a liaison to support and to provide guidance. They are not a voting member, but they will provide guidance in the event that there's something that for example, if the parent-teacher organization is looking at purchasing something and the director knows that there's already something in the works to make that purchase, then that director would be able to provide that committee with that information or advice and things like that. So, Jamie, you want to speak to this just briefly about where we're at in this whole process? We have looked at some other university charters that have parent-teacher organizations. This is something that each campus has, and each parent, the parents at large have asked about. How can we start a parent-teacher organization? I think it was something that in the past has been explored briefly, but I don't think that we've ever really had 3 strong parent-teacher organizations on all 3 campuses. And so that's my goal this year, is to make sure that we can, support the parents. And many of our parents, again, want to be actively involved and have some say in some things. And I think it's a great opportunity for them to be able to raise money and look at some things that they want to purchase as a group to support the school.
I think the big piece here is whether or not that is gonna run under the university finances and all of those types of things versus outside. And so we've explored both options because in a typical ISD, the PTO is separate from the ISD. They have their own officers, treasurer, bank account, and then the school just has somebody that serves as a liaison for guidance. And then they can also audit their account and their finances through the treasurer as a means, because the money is being raised with the purpose of it being for the school. So the school has the right to audit that account. And so versus a university situation, like for example, SFA has a charter there as well, and they have a PTO and they run theirs through the university. All the finances go through the university. The problem that we run into with that is the parents don't have access to money to do the things that they need to do, because they're having to submit all the money to us, and then we deposit it, and then when they want to buy something, we have to do a purchase order, we have to do a check. And so when they're hosting a pool party or any sort of activity, and all of a sudden they need to run down and get ice and all those things, it's almost impossible.
Of course, the
So-
upside though is, as we learn, there's a lot of, believe it or not, embezzlement of PTO funds in school districts. And so that's one of the reasons you create hassle but the money goes where it's supposed to go.
So in the past, where she was saying, they've kind of experimented with the parent organizations in the past, but there was no official bylaws, there was no elected officers, there was not, I guess you could say,
A liaison. that served on-
There wasn't anything that kind of an auditing stamp. The money was actually coming through us, but then they ran into the roadblocks because they couldn't get money to host the things they wanted to do in a timely fashion, and the red tape kind of got in the way. So we're looking at being able to assist them in creating a parent organization that is official, that has the membership coming in, that has the official bylaws in place that state what the processes are, how they will raise funds, what the funds are for, how the funds are auditable by the school district, that we have a non-voting member on the board, but that they serve as the liaison, all of those bylaws in place, and the elected officers in place with an actual bank account that's established as a 501c3 for them, so that they're their own entity, and we are basically just providing the guidance and assisting them in getting that going, but that we wouldn't have the funds and things. I think that's the
I
plan.
don't know if that's a good idea.
Okay.
One, it's gonna cost money to do 501c3, they're gonna have to do the taxes every year. They're gonna have to, every time they make a change membership, that's gonna be a hassle. I'm just saying, you really ought to, a little hassle, deal with our financial people, because you have to wait on a check. It's like a student activity account, basically, it's what you're setting up, because that money can only be used for students. That means they have to actually pre-plan. They can't decide, oh, next Tuesday we're gonna have a thing. They have to plan it out a month in advance, and the checks will be ready.
Like a PTO and an ISD has its own 501c3.
Yeah, like a booster club.
Like I was
All that, okay,
band
alright.
booster secretary, and we had our own bank account, our
So
own
I'm just saying, I
501c3.
mean, they have to stay current on their taxes,
Right.
they have to stay, it's
Yeah, but
more
you have-
complicated than,
It depends too on how big it gets. For example, the band boosters that I was a secretary on, we purchased our own trailer for the band. So we have to pay our own insurance on the trailer. So every year we have to write a check for the insurance on the trailer. If a tire blew on our truck, the truck belonged to us. It didn't belong to the school district. So we had to buy a new tire. We ran a concession stand. So we bought all the Cokes and all of the food and all of the whatever for the concession. All that came out of the band booster account. It was not ran through the school. At the end of the year, though, the school audits and shows how much money came in from the concession stand, how much money was spent on the band, what
once
trips we got.
again, they still have to have someone that understands 501c3, they'll have to have an attorney set it up.
So you're recommending that the university, that everything runs still through the university.
Yeah,
So to
and
have a
parents would
parent-teacher
have total
organization.
control over what they spend their money on, however they set up their rules. They can still have bylaws, they can still have, just like student government, they have things, they have rules,
They just need to understand they're gonna have to plan ahead.
They have to
and-
plan ahead, and I think that's better anyway.
Yeah.
And that's not unusual with a lot of school districts, they run it through the school. The only problem that we have versus typical school districts is a school district can issue a check.
Can write a check, exactly, that day.
Signing contract.
But they just have to play it, but they're gonna have to plan
Contracts
ahead.
with
Right.
the racing.
Right.
You normally have to sign a contract.
It takes a
Yeah,
bit.
Okay.
I
I didn't know if it was like week, month. I didn't know, okay.
They run
Also,
tests one day a week.
Ms. Rutledge made up another, brought up a great point. Anytime that we have a contract with, someone at like Life Touch that takes our school pictures, that contract has to be reviewed by the university.
Yep.
And so you know, the PTO needs to understand that if everything's ran through the university, if they decide they want to do a fundraiser down in their local community, and oftentimes those fundraisers companies require you to either put up money or to sign a contract. That contract, again, has to be reviewed by the university before they could even proceed with, you know, that agreement. So those are just things that we would have to educate them on, and we would have to make sure that, and this is all new to us. Again, the reason why this is year 4, and we probably do not have a PTO on every campus is for these reasons. Because every time we get ready to have the conversation and look at and weigh it, you know, sometimes either the parents get frustrated or we get frustrated. But as we continue to grow, we need to have a PTO on every campus. And I'm committed to making sure that we have one, and that we make sure that we,
And I think the parents want one.
they won't, oh
tried,
yes, they
put
continue to
together one,
ask.
But then they ran into roadblocks, and I think it became such a hassle for them that it was like,
Exactly.
we run into roadblocks, so then why, you know, what was so, I mean, that's been expressed numerous times, is that it fell apart because of the red tape.
That's
And
right.
there are ways on the purchasing side, you know, there could be a dedicated purchasing card.
Yeah. And that might be some options that we could look at.
Because then
Solve a lot of
they just have to have money in their account. And
Like
you don't have to wait on a check.
That's right.
Like a pro card,
Like a
but
pro card,
yeah. So
That
they
can
could
be-
actually
I
have
think
their,
that can be worked out.
okay. So basically the action item is here because I'm asking the board to accept that we move forward with developing a parent teacher organization, often known as a PTO, on each campus. And that we make sure that there are bylaws, in that I'm going to approve the bylaws, and they're going to be very consistent for all 3 campuses. We're actually going to look at some other charter schools that have PTOs and kind of mirror some of their bylaws. And also within the bylaws, understand that the director will serve as, it will be noted in the bylaws that the director will serve as a liaison. But in addition to what I'm hearing based on, you know, Dr. Odell's feedback, and you guys may agree as well, that we would like to see the PTO ran through the university and not a separate entity. And so I think that's something that we gathered from this conversation. And so
I just think it prevents what happened.
Running off with money.
Yeah.
Well, this doesn't, but then it was bad. It happens. It happens.
Happens
all
frequently.
and
the
you're
time.
exactly right. In the event, even though we may not be connected, in the event that something did happen, it would look like we had connection with it. It just simply because it could be noted that the PTO at the
It
university,
actually protects them.
Yeah. and it protects us,
Yeah.
our name.
Does the university have to accept liability for events, fundraising events?
There's insurance policies that we buy for any events as it is. So
I'm just that, I guess, does our university have to approve of us saying we want to allow the PTO to run funds and stuff?
yeah, I mean, technically they do, but that's not an issue.
Okay.
I mean, it's connected with us.
The charter school,
Yeah.
So a motion to accept the parent-teacher organization under the requirements of us having bylaws that will be approved by me, and that the directors will serve as liaisons, not be a voting member, and that the PTO will run through the university.
So
Do I have a
Well,
motion?
the money, the finances are.
Well, I guess I should say that
The PTO is not running.
the PTO will be,
They're just going to handle their finances.
it won't be a separate entity.
Right.
It will actually be tied to
Right.
the university or the IA, either way. Okay. Do I have a motion to accept that?
So moved.
Okay. I have a first motion by Dr. Dykes, second by Dr. Odell. All right. Next action item is our student code of conduct.
You have to vote.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. Do I have all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Sorry about that. Action item number 9, student code of conduct. This is also a document that we accepted, and this is the first year that Texas Charter School Association actually did a student code of conduct, and so we were able to purchase the student code of conduct. Understand, again, we're running into the same thing. The same laws that apply to ISDs under the behavioral requirements of Chapter 37 and Student Code of Conduct are not the same. So in the past, we have gone through the TASB to look at their model student code of conduct, and it is not aligned with charter school student requirements. So this is another document that the Texas Charter School Association created and put out there for charter schools to purchase and then to go in and actually just make some changes. And so I know Mrs. Dennis, you had your hands in this along with the directors as well and the leadership team. Anything you want to speak to particular that we noted in our charter school?
The biggest
Our
thing
student
was
code of
the
conduct?
DAEP, not having that.
Correct.
Since we are in charter schools, that was the biggest thing that was the difference from the previous student code of conduct that we had.
And I'm real excited about this document because this document supports a process in the event that we have a student that is misbehaving. We do not look at a DAP placement. Oftentimes what a typical ISD does, we actually move into an expulsion hearing process. And this document supports a procedure for that expulsion hearing process. Again, in the event that we need it with a particular student that's misbehaving. So this is not something we've had in the past, so I'm really excited to have this document to support our school. So do we have a motion to accept the student code of conduct?
Or do we have ISS?
Or questions?
I'm just wondering.
In-school suspension? Sure.
Do we have that? Are we, y'all smiling?
Depends on you.
No.
There have been kids that have got in-school suspension.
We did explore last year with a few students individually that we found out after consulting with them and their parents and the knowing the actual behavior that it was best to place them in an in-school suspension versus suspending them, because really that's the only options that we have is, you know,
There's a timeout in this list, conduct.
Yeah.
I put quotes around it because it's in there, but it's just, you know.
So we had an all-day timeout.
Right. We had-
so
Well, I'm just saying the policy says ISS policy, OSS policy, and out of school suspension. And I'm just wondering, have we been practicing that over 4 years, or is this, because I know, does that mean we have to hire somebody to be our ISS teacher? And
Yeah,
are we
and
getting all
that's-
day sub for
yeah.
that? For one kid that's an ISS, or?
and that's why we're so excited to have this now, because there are options that we learned through the Texas Charter School Association legal consultants that, you know, you don't have to go through those interventions like a typical ISD. And that's why ISDs don't like charters oftentimes, because they say it's not fair. We have to go through all these interventions and the kid still returns. We don't have an option really to permanently remove them. Well, the expulsion process is really a process to permanently remove the child in the event that the behavior warrants it. And so,
They actually refer to it as revoking enrollment because
Yes.
of discipline.
yes.
Just like our application states where they have to sign that the child has no disciplinary when they apply, it states on there that if in the event records come out that they really do, that their enrollment or admission can be revoked. So it's really revoking of admission.
So depending on the behavior, in the event that a student is completely off task and acting out of class, that teacher is going to implement classroom interventions, which could be a timeout, which could be a call to the parent, could be a one-on-one conference with the student, could be an actual removal, or as far as to the office to talk with the campus director and the teacher and the student. It could be a removal in the classroom or a change of placement in the classroom where maybe it's their friend that that's causing them to be off task with. So there's interventions within the classroom, and then there's campus interventions, such as, again, talking with the principal having a face-to-face meeting with parents, and the student, developing a plan of action. This is what's happening in the classroom. This is what the teacher's doing, documenting those things. This is what we're going to do now to support the child to improve the behavior. The next step is expulsion. Is basically suspension and then expulsion. So those are really our stages of intervention to support a student that is there's a behavior issue, depending on the situation. It could be a situation that warrants that the student is automatically removed to the principal's office and then automatically suspended, depending on the situation. And that's all stated here.
Yes.
But we have a lot of flexibility as a charter, whereas in a typical ISD that has to fall under Chapter 37, there's not a lot of flexibility. Basically, the kid does A, the school has to do B.
And we put a bus policy in.
Because of we do operate, some of our students do travel through the the shuttle here on the campus, field trips and things like that. And then we took our students on to Texarkana on the
I figured that's
the
what
bus.
it was.
So we decided to keep it in, and we would eventually like to, in the future. We would eventually like to purchase a bus and maybe have something where we can do more trips and things like that.
I heard the PTO was gonna purchase the bus.
You're gonna be raising a lot of money, aren't they?
So I do want to note to the board, this student code of conduct was not something that we just all sat down in one day and just started creating. This is actually created by legal consultants at the Texas Charter School, so it is aligned with charter school law, and that we were able to go in and just make the amendments to comply with our policies in our charter school. So exciting to have this document to support our students in school. So any more questions?
Make a motion to approve.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve the student code of conduct by Dr. Lamb, and Mr. Aldridge makes a second to approve. All in favor? Any opposed? All right, so next items, now we're moving to our informational items. This is where the superintendent's report. And so as you can see, in your board documents, you have the district enrollment. And so as of September the 25th, you can see that we currently serve 3rd through 9th grade students, Tyler, Longview, and Palestine campus. Tyler has a total enrollment of 246. Longview has an enrollment of 145, and Palestine has an enrollment of 176. Total enrollment for the school year currently is 567, with a district attendance rate of 97.24%. Tyler's attendance rate is 97.7%, 70%. Longview's 96.50%, and Palestine is 97.22% attendance. So I do want to send a shout out to the campus directors. Our daily attendance rate has improved. These individuals, along with the admins on each campus, are monitoring attendance very closely. We have systems in place to monitor it very closely, from call systems that are calling parents to face-to-face meetings with parents, meetings in the parking lots, and then calls to parents that are going out as well, that directors are calling parents. So a lot of systems. A lot of systems in place to get kids to school, and so this is reflected here as we see an increase in our attendance.
And funding aside, if we drop below 96%, we're not eligible for distinctions. So that's a big thing.
Yes, and we talked about that.
District-wide or campus?
Both. So if a campus falls below, the district still maintains. That's okay, but we're not going to fall below. But so it's really important, especially as we add higher level grades, because those attendance rates tend to suffer the older the kid gets.
So currently, that's where we're at with attendance for the district.
What did we budget?
580.
We're 13 below.
Yeah.
580.
We're about the same.
That's all right. We're all right.
Okay.
And we, just on a side note, we have started or looking at Cabinet met on Monday and talked about marketing, because we realized that semester is kind of a targeted time that parents may choose to look at other options for schools. And so our goal is to retain the students we have, and then to be able to enroll some students at the semester point.
And if you remember last year, and the year before, the first year, if you remember the data, those of you that are on the board, we'd have 2 come in and 1 leave almost weekly. And then we did better at counseling prospective parents and students last year.
Yes,
Okay.
to make sure they
to make sure they
understood.
what they were getting themselves into, what is a STEM school. It wasn't just, because I don't like my current school. And so those, we don't have the in and out so much. The families we lost so far, I mean, it was like in Longview, a family
Yes,
that moved.
yeah,
And, yeah.
Two families?
Two families, one to Oklahoma, one to San Antonio. I
It
mean,
was like 10 in a week.
10 in a week, but there's, because we had families. So the numbers are not like the fluidity we had before. We're very stable, which I think is a good thing.
very good thing. The feedback we're getting from parents this year is very positive about communication and overall level of rigor and alignment. So, you know, and we're getting a lot of parents that are calling. They're hearing about the school and they're seeing the overall performance of the school. They're comparing it to their local ISD or other charters in the community, and beginning to ask some very heated questions about, you know, looking at your scores compared to my student scores. You know, why are you guys, how are you performing at this higher level? What are you doing? You know, what is your model about? So having some really good conversations. But I think the directors overall did a better job this year of sitting down with parents and the other employees as well, and making sure that they understood what our school was about and understood the model and the expectations moving forward.
So the new motto is a pretty building doesn't mean you have a great education.
I think we should hire the marketing group that worked on UT Tyler's little 3-second videos. Have you seen them?
Yeah, there are.
Those are-
We could do something like that.
If you haven't seen them, they're really
And
good.
those of you on the Skyward, we sent out a thing that shows where we stack up. Did everybody get that?
Yes, so I sent that out to the board as well
So,
to
I
show.
mean, you know, you look at where we started and where we are in striking distance of being the top school in each county we're in.
And I will tell you, being in the classroom, and I know the directors can speak to this, and Jacqueline as well. Soon seeing some great things. Kids are engaged. They're excited about learning. Teachers are really being challenged to develop lessons at a very higher level of rigor. So it's a very exciting time, and other schools are also asking about, you know, what we're doing and how our model differs. So staying true to our model, and that's what's important. That, you know, in the time that we really were facing some difficult times, I'm so excited to say that, you know, that we stay true to our model and are continuing to do the project-based learning and problem-based learning. So any questions about the district enrollment? The next item on the superintendent's report is B, the annual governance documents. Ms. Crocker sent this out to you, so I'm going to let her
Yes.
take this.
And I'm going to apologize. I had hoped to actually have the official documents for you to sign today, but they have to be entered into a system. They have not opened that system yet, which is actually kind of funny because they're coming due very soon. So I looked back at my letters from last year, and they literally like opened it for a 2-week window. So it should be opening up here probably within the next 2 weeks, and then I've got to get those in. So I will be needing to collect those last few that I need from the rest of you, and I will probably.
Did I get mine?
Yes, you did.
Oh, good.
So I will probably be tracking each of you down, or I will be sending it to the director to track you down to get an official signature on the document, because they will be turned in before our next board meeting. So I wanted to have you all be able to sign them today, but the application's not open yet. So.
Okay. All right.
So speaking about that, we need either Mr. Humphries or I, or both of us are up for.
We've talked about that, and we are looking at, in fact, it's in the,
Sorry, just as long as somebody
no,
had-
you're
as long as
exactly right. We
so you
looked
didn't
at it,
forget about it.
and it is in our model policy now that we will look at elections in the spring, and I think
And
every
it's
3 years, did we
Every
say?
third year, so that the campuses
Alter.
alternate each year.
So we talked about doing,
I think you're up next, Palestine.
yes, Palestine would be up next for this spring, and then we would do Tyler in 2017. Yeah. So we're definitely looking at that, because you're right. So we hope that you would choose to run again, is, if I can say that. I don't know if that.
Unless you bring it up because you want to.
Yeah. So I don't know if you're trying to look at a way out or what. Okay. Budget updates. Boyce, do you have anything you want to address with our budget updates? That's also in your
I just
documents.
want to let you know that the amendments that you just approved are not reflected on this, so you're gonna see negatives, but those amendments you just approved cover those negatives that you see.
Hopefully by the next time we can let you know what our fund balance will be for the current year. You know, for reliance on, look back. How much you use in the black.
We will be in the black.
Yeah.
We're
Any other questions? Faculty staff handbook, I just wanted to bring to the board's attention that we do have this year a faculty and staff handbook. We were able to work with the Texas Charter School Association and purchase their personnel manual. And then, in fact, I will tell you, Jama spent countless hours looking at the manual that we purchased and aligning it with the university. And so we were able at the very beginning of the year to present our staff with a faculty staff handbook that covers everything from policies, procedures, expectations. And so very pleased to have this in place for our staff members to refer to.
That's along with the GSPEN.
It's aligned with that. It's also aligned with our HR policy.
So we have something now in the event that we're in a situation with an employee that we can refer back to. So
we actually hosted a whole day
that we
where we
reviewed
actually
it.
went through each
And they
of the-
signed off saying that they do have a copy, they did review it. So
we had
And you know, at the
trainers.
university, we just look at 8 slides and we take a little test, and if we want, we just take it again. We pass it.
So that's
we
right.
might try that next time because we did a whole day of it.
Well, but we're still getting questions. on it,
Yeah.
too, so.
So the next item, any questions about the handbook? The next item is the annual board training. Working with legal consultants at Texas Charter School Association, the board is required to do annual trainings. As you know, we went through an all-day training last year in October. There are several options. The options are that we bring in someone to train us, which will cost us around $2,500. The other option that the legal consultant mentioned was that we send everybody to a conference, which is very costly. Looking at it would cost us between $10,000 and $15,000 to send all the board members to San Antonio to the Texas Charter Schools conference. And so we're looking at options to make sure that we do have the updated board training, and we did learn that this can take place as late as the spring, so we have decided to move it to the spring because I know this is a busy time of year. And then we also are trying to see if Dr. Hickey can actually provide us with our annual required updated training. So I know you received an email that
For free in San
yeah, and so you did receive an email that we were looking at that first week of November. I know that several of you had conflicts. That's okay. So now that we know that we can push it back to the spring, we'll probably look at something in February that's not so busy for everyone. So we'll get you some dates as soon as we confirm those. But the new board members will have to do 2 training sessions or 2 or 3 additional training sessions online. But the other board members will just have to do updated training.
You have to print out your little certificate.
Yeah.
Yes, and
Never
then
lose it.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
once and done.
Yes, on the Open Meeting Act.
Yeah,
And then,
okay.
Open meetings.
and there's 2 other ones that are, like, I think it's every 2 years,
Yeah.
but they're
Attorney General's
online.
office,
Yeah.
yeah.
Helen, you said new, as in, I don't know.
As in you're newly elected.
You attended the
I
October.
did last year, but it
Yeah.
was only like, right.
Yes.
So
Yes.
he was providing.
Aldridge did the training last year. You just, because we scheduled it where we had you in place to complete the training. I remember that.
Yes, because he came in at that same time.
Yes.
You skip the student handbook.
Yeah, I was gonna say, did we discuss?
Oh,
the handbook?
I apologize for
I'm sorry,
that.
I thought we-
Thank you so much. So I went to the faculty handbook. So we talked about the annual board training. So now let's go back to student handbook. This is the one document that Texas Charter School Association at this point has not created, and that is on their list to do because they realize that it's a lot easier to create a personnel manual and to create a student code of conduct because a lot of those things are just basically law. When you look at a student handbook, you're opening up a whole nother arena, because a lot of the student handbook really looks at just policies and procedures that strictly apply to your district. And so one thing that we learned was that you don't have to have a policy for every single thing. And that's something that we've got to get away from, saying that we need a policy on something. It just needs to be documented in your student handbook. And that's something that the legal consultant kept going back to as Mark and I were talking with her. So many times districts want to get into where they have a policy. They talk about, we need a policy on this, we need a policy on that. No, your handbook is a document that you're basically saying, this is our way of doing things. And it addresses everything from how we look at awarding a salutatorian and a valedictorian, to how we look at everything from parent involvement to report cards to school facilities. It's a very detailed document. And so right now we refer to TASB to get this document, and then we take the document and review it to mirror our procedures in our district. So this is a document that can change at times, and depending on if we need to make changes. This is not a document that the board approves. We did learn that. The board needs to approve the student code of conduct. They don't need to approve the handbook. They need to know that there is a handbook in operation, but it's not something that they actually need to approve and be liable for. And so just an information item to let you know that we do have a student handbook. Any questions about the student handbook? Again, it does cover pretty much a lot of procedures and things like that. We do have, this handbook will be posted online. Parents did sign off saying that they reviewed the handbook. This is something covers everything from our bullying expectations to how we handle students that are in foster care to school facilities. I mean, it's
essentially you give it to them at the beginning of the year, and it's the same. If something comes up in the middle of the year, you can't edit, but you need to notify parents.
Yes, in the event that we make an edit, parents will be notified. And I would definitely bring that to the board's attention as well. I don't see a need for it right now, but stepping into the high school arena has been a challenge. And so we're tweaking things as we go, as we're looking at different things and requirements. So
these are, pardon my ignorance on this one, that document I didn't get to.
Okay.
Do we have things on like consent? There's general consent on like taking pictures for media.
Yes.
And things
We
like
have all
that.
those things.
yes.
Because we're a university kind of lab school, is there a way to create?
So
You wanna pass that? Give that
Yes,
to me.
I talked to Gloria about that.
And
we can- basically what this is about is research.
Yeah.
There's a section
So
on
there are two
research in
ways
here.
to do it. Yeah, I know. And so we can talk offline. But what I would like is parents, for anything that would be consent, to sign off up front. So if you're looking at last year's data, not a problem. If you want to look at current data, it's a problem. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
If you want to publish. And
Yeah.
but that's the next big thing I'm kind of working on, since the curriculum stuff's kind of getting sorted out, is what the research plan going forward. And so
It just seems to me like if somebody comes into a university charter, there should be up front saying it's a university charter connected to the university and to.
it is designated a system core facility. So technically, it's open to anyone. The Ingenuity Center, the Discovery Science Place, the
What are those other things?
The Innovation Academy.
What's all this?
it's all part of an education core facility, because we can maintain fidelity in a study that you can't do in public schools.
Right.
Any study I've ever done in a public school is suspect because they don't do what they're supposed to do. And but we should have a research update sometime in the future. I'll put that together.
Okay.
But it's in progress, so now's the time to talk about it.
I will say on their enrollment form, when they actually do their paperwork every year, when they do that, one of the items is the parental agreement, and there's like, 20 statements there that they have to initial, and like, it would be a good place to insert that one
That's
with all
right.
the research.
That's
Right
fine.
now, there's one that already says that because we're online networking school that, there are videos and postings and online pictures and things like that taking place, and they're initialing that consent. So the only way they could really undo that consent after they've already documented would be to then later opt out via written, which is what's stated in that book.
Right.
So you could just easily add in
Yeah.
something about the research.
Absolutely.
On the research, what we would have to do, those of us, Ed, that want to deal with this, we have to write an IRB such that it's a big enough umbrella that Gloria then will approve it.
And then this is random, but do we have plans for next year when people start driving?
Yes.
Yes.
We have people
it's
driving
on-
now.
Yeah, we have people driving now. It's already in there.
Good.
Yeah, we've already worked with the campus police to work that out.
Any other questions? And the student handbook will be posted online for parents to and board members to view. I have an extra copy if anybody. I think we passed one to you, Dr. Lamb, as well. We talked about the annual board training, the audit for 2014-15. Can you believe it? We're already now stepping into another audit, financial audit. And so, Mark, I'll let you talk about that just briefly because I know it's changed.
We got a 100% first rating.
Yes.
Which is what we're looking for. Things change. TEA has a graduated process that they're adding to particular things we're going to grade us on over the next 3 years. We're already looking into. It's funny because they came out just recently with what they're going to grade us on last year. So we're still good on all that, but we're also looking to get the next 2 years as a change. We're pretty confident. We're also have put together a university charter coalition that we're meeting with all of the university charters in the state and try to get more voice on the governing TEA. The state realize that university charters are a bit different when it comes to the financial side as far as purchasing and all. We won't be treated differently because state law treats us differently.
So the first question on the audit is, what is the status of your 501c3?
Yes.
How much money have you invested?
Then how much money have you
How much
invested in
interest
your
did
boat?
you earn?
We can't do any of that.
Well, and now the new one is your pensions on your TRS.
They work that out.
Yeah, they finally did, but they sent out this big long thing about pensions and TRS, and you have to report all this. And I emailed him, and I'm like, how are we going to do that?
And you guys are working through that, so I know that's.
Yeah, they've come back
yeah.
and said that doesn't,
It'll be
it's not
okay.
going to apply.
So,
And I think last year there was a ding or a possible on our evaluation because we don't have like this $500,000 savings account, right? And you said we passed 100%.
Yeah.
Right? So they fixed that.
Yep.
This last year, which is actually almost 2 years ago for us now, which is what we're talking about today, is that they didn't count it for that particular year. They're going to, in the process of the next 3 years, make sure that you have some kind of a fund balance to a certain amount, whether it's 45, 60, or 90 days, based on whether or not you go over the amount of money that comes in from TEA for that year. So our budget for TEA is $4 million. If we don't go over it, then we don't have to think.
We have made progress with helping them understand, and not just us, Stephen at Permian Basin. In fact, I think Permian Basin almost has more connections with those folks at TEA than any of the rest of us.
really?
Yeah, just
And with state law.
and with the lawmakers, they have advocates where we don't.
Wow, interesting. Good thing that we have connections with them.
Yes, good thing.
Yeah.
And I'm pleased to report that they did well too in their first year of test scores, but we did beat them.
Oh, that's exciting.
Well, they have a different grade.
They did.
Hey, don't minimize stuff.
I'm just saying, we're harder than you have the upper level.
Yes.
They don't.
Yeah.
All right, so the next item is curriculum updates. Ms. Peterson, do you have anything, or does the board have any questions regarding curriculum, an overview or updates?
I don't have any new per se. My team currently is working on common district assessments that we're giving to all of our 7th and 9th graders at the end of the 9 weeks, as well as upcoming benchmarks that we're doing in November. And it's really what we're working on.
You might add that we did introduce engineering and
Oh,
computer science. Has been a tremendous hit.
Yeah, you all knew that we implemented the PLTW courses, but we're getting great feedback from parents and students. Students across the board are saying computer science and engineering are their favorite classes. That's what we're hearing. Yeah.
Oh,
And they-
you hired a very excellent.
And our
teacher
teachers
over
are
there
loving
in
it. The
Tyler.
people that we have
It's
doing
also
them are loving it. So that's been very positive.
That's
And it's the challenging, rigorous courses, which is nice. It's a
Wow.
good addition.
And I would add, we're looking at competitions as well, besides the VEX. And I found some that are national that our state actually has fairly low participation. And so, well, I mean, it's one Department of Defense. And you know, you can always go do FIRST Robotics with 8,000 other teams. But one of these programs, you get if your team wins, every kid gets a $50,000 scholarship to Embry-Riddle. That's nice. So, I helped coach a team in Clear Lake a few years back that almost placed, and they had very little support. So I'm looking at that program and a couple others that, you know, we could go do we can still do the others too, but, you know, they're going to have long established teams and all the tricks, all the rules. There are some really good ones out there that are new that we could actually get some real big national attention. So,
And I just want to add, Jacqueline, her team do an outstanding job and work very closely with the teachers. We have as you know, we have a science and reading coach and math coach. These coaches are on all three campuses weekly. They're in the classrooms modeling instruction. They're in the classrooms providing constructive feedback. In the afternoons, they meet with teachers to develop lessons, to basically, critique future PBLs. They look at data. They create the district benchmark assessments. They are as closely connected to any campus and teachers that I've ever seen in a actual coaching model. And so
and I want to add to that.
And
one of the things that the coaches allow us to do in any school, you know, your last minute hires, it's out of your control. You have people that get that dream person job or that dream. And so, you know, we have a support system for newbies that didn't get to do the training or do the, you know, the long-term stuff that we do in the summer. And rather than them just kind of going with what they know how to do, they've got people that are hand-holding them through it.
And I think another critical piece is that oftentimes you see in school districts where they bring in a lot of training at the forefront of the school. You know, the beginning of the school year, they bring in and they're, you know, all this training. But the piece that's missing is usually the step to evaluate and the implementation of that training. Oftentimes they receive the training, they're really excited about it, they go back to their classroom, they struggle implementing it, and oftentimes, again, they resort back to what they're comfortable with. And so instruction truly doesn't change. Our model supports that. Our teachers are trained by these coaches. They actually create those PBLs prior to the start of school, that first one, with the support of the coaches. And then the coaches are there to guide them through that actual implementation of that PBL and providing them not only modeling. I actually observed coaches teaching, and then I observed yesterday a coach sitting with a teacher in planning, and then I've observed them actually sitting in the back of the room taking notes to then meet with them afterwards to give them that constructive feedback. So I really I value our curriculum team and our coaches and the work that they're doing across the campus. And so I think it's a direct impact of what we saw in overall performance this year. And our teachers don't understand it does. I do note that it does take that teacher actually doing the work and implementing it, because the coach is not always there. But I think our model supports them and assists them with implementing our model, our coaching model. So I just want to thank Jacqueline and her team for that.
I was going to point out that you didn't mention social studies, but I've taken on that role this year, so I'm
Yeah.
social studies coach
Okay.
this year, which is not
That
my
was,
background.
and that
'cause
was
I'm
the
math.
only area we didn't have a coach.
That's
But
right.
I'm giving it all I can.
Ours-
I'm working
ours
with
kinda
our
reflected
8th
that.
grade social studies. So
And Miss Dennis does have the background in social
she's helping
studies.
me.
So, you know, she's
Using
able to
course.
support the curriculum and understands the curriculum in that area. So, I do want to just note to the board as I move into administrative updates. Dr. Lehman, did you have a question?
Yeah,
about-
just
Okay, go ahead.
one quick. The last year we did benchmark assessment that we weren't real happy with, maybe. So we have a new plan now.
We weren't happy with the score.
No, I'm talking about like how we did.
Oh, we're gonna give the whole one this year.
Give the whole.
We're giving
we
it
like broke it up
twice.
and-
We're gonna give a full one here in November, and then we're gonna give a full one again in
And we're utilizing our star results from last year to just kind of.
It's a combination of STAR / EOC / test changes. Our test was more rigorous, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, we had to create our own math test last year because there wasn't anything, because the standards were new. But we're using a combination. The ones we're giving in all subjects but math are the full release test. So from 2014 and then last year's full release test, but they only released 15 math questions. So we're still having to, we're going to use those 15 math questions, but then we're still having to pull other things. But what we did find are the math assessments we created last year were actually more rigorous than what the state has come out with. So when in doubt, we choose higher level of DOK questions than lower ones, and that, yeah, sorry, the knowledge questions. So that has been, I'm so used to saying, I'm sorry. That's been something that has worked in our favor. So we have found that that's wonderful. So math is still a little bit of a struggle to move those questions.
Have we looked at anything about like our benchmark last spring and how it correlated with their results?
Oh, yeah.
Brian can talk
Brian is our master on that one, but they
It
were
was
pretty spot on.
spot
Yeah,
Pretty spot on.
that's what you're always looking for, is that you can have
What if we can identify?
an earlier predictor,
Yeah.
so that you can respond earlier. I can get in there and actually work with specific kids, specific strategies, specific parts of the content, and those coaches took, and Jacqueline led them through looking at that data and saying, no, we'll zero in on this. We found it was very tight. A lot of schools missed that completely, and they're
Oh, yeah.
taking it up even more this year.
That's awesome. So then when we give that full.
You have a lot of confidence
now,
in
we'll be
what
able
you're
to track
responding to, right.
and get quick. Awesome.
So as I move into administrative updates, I just want to say I value everybody at the table. We have these individuals that you're looking at have worked extremely hard to make these improvements and to start the year off the way that we have. To speak to the directors, they're doing an outstanding job communicating to parents with newsletters and emails, being in the classroom to support teachers, to put systems in place from everything to drop off to systems to support school safety, looking at serving individual student populations and make sure they're supported. So just a shout out to their work and efforts to build a overall positive culture on all three of the campuses. The two new directors we've hired have stepped right in, coming from ISD, with the ISD experience, stepping right in and trying to make that transition and having some hiccups along the way, which is natural because they come from a system that's somewhat very different, in trying to transition, but they're doing an outstanding job. The feedback that we're getting from parents, not only through phone calls, emails, but postings on Facebook, that the school year started off in a very productive way. Best school year ever with some of the postings that we saw, and just communication is more ongoing this year. And so just a shout out because that's due to their hard work and efforts. To speak to Brian this year is overseeing UIL. As you know, we stepped into that arena, both academic and athletics. And so we have had several competitions already. Our students have been competing in cross-country competitions, and they're having fun. I can say they're having fun. Yeah. So, and we're also looking at academic UIL teams, and so we had a group and some directors attend the meeting at TJC, and so we're experimenting with that as well and trying to figure out, where do we want, when we look at academic competitions, we want to select competitions that align with our model and align with STEM, and so trying to guide that process and understanding that we don't want to have our hands in everything. We want to have our hands in select things and be very good at that. And so as we step into the UIL arena, Brian is taking charge of that. Brian is also seeing student operations, looking at serving those special populations from everything to ESL to 504 and guiding those processes and ensuring that we're staying in compliance there. So a shout out to him doing a great job in his role. To speak to Christian oversees finance. She works closely with Jama, looking, as you know, as we step into the audits, looking at how the reporting requirements change and learning those new reporting requirements, looking at developing a budget and keeping us all in tune with that, making sure that we realize this is how much money we have, and just because you ask for that doesn't mean that we can buy it. Is this a need or a want, and do we actually have the money? So she's doing an outstanding job coming from a situation where this is not her area of expertise, and within the last year or so has really taken ownership in it and doing a great job. So I thank her for that. I've already spoke to Jacqueline.
We're sending you over this.
Yeah, that's right. And so try too good of a job. To speak to,
to the desert.
I've already spoke about Jacqueline. Does a great job with her team. Those of you, Mark, I could not do my job without Mark because he keeps me in line. I come from an ISD, and so I get my hands slapped quite a bit trying to look at things because he keeps me in line with university policies and things like that, and helps us with facilities as we look at different options as we continue to grow. And Mark works closely also with the Texas Charter School Association and trying to make sure that they realize that some of the things that they actually have in writing that they say are law contradict with our university law. So a special appreciation to Mark and his leadership. Odell's Odell. He challenges us every day, and so appreciate I appreciate all that he does as well and keeps us on our toes. Just a special thanks to Jama as she's taken her position, does an outstanding job. I will tell you, I could not do my job without Jama, and works hard with that department, has built a very strong department under her leadership as they continue to look at developing such things as a faculty handbook that we can actually refer to as well. I apologize, I didn't introduce Anita. Anita is working on our superintendency, and so she is here today sitting in on a board meeting and just getting that experience as she works to determine if she wants to be a superintendent or what position she wants to be at. Anita, you want to tell us what Anita currently works in the ACE program in Palestine, so she's a director and oversees that as well. So I hope I didn't miss anybody, but I do want the board to know what each individual person's role is and responsibilities and the ownership they have in making the improvements needed. So thank you for your continued support. I encourage you to take the opportunity to visit the school, get in the classrooms, and see that actually what we're telling you is happening is actually happening. And see it for yourself, because we've got some amazing teachers, new staff this year as well, and real excited about our future as we explore opportunities to look at pre-K through second and then to grow that high school up through 12th grade. So that's the only updates I have. Does the board have any questions for me? All right, I make a motion to adjourn. I show the time is 1:29.
I'll make that motion.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay,
You
you're going to make the
seconded.
motion. I'm sorry. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Yes, I
Dr.
did.
Odell
You
says we
seconded.
adjourn.
Seconded.
Okay.
Yes,
Second.
aye.
Aye. All right. Thank you so much. Odell, you were supposed to take the lead on this today, and you put me in this.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
You did a great
So
job.
there's two things that's gonna show up in your.
Yeah, stop that for sure. Back it up a little bit too.